Can Roberto speak now?
I asked him to unmute, and he's a co-host. He's unmuted.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Hi, happy belated New Year, everybody, and fantastic presentations. Thank you. I just wanted to make a recommendation for on the topic of existing ontologies and upper level ontologies, since just making some notes of the presentations and some of the slides. If anything is on upper ontologies, if we can have, for the sake of fairness, sort of a wide scope on various upper ontologies. I noticed, for instance, with the Buffalo speaker, that it's naturally it would be focused on BFO, and the program they're developing and internships naturally would have a bias of using that particular upper level ontology. So that should be explicitly stated in order to avoid ethical issues, so that the novice person, the student, is aware that it comes with a fine print, whether implicit or explicit, of using their particular product, namely their particular upper ontology, and that there is an existing international community of other alternative upper level ontologies, including some in attendance today. And then also with Gary's slide, also mentioning this slide on upper ontologies seemed to focus only on that particular New York product. So perhaps if we, for the sake of ethics and fairness, to have a broader awareness of upper level ontologies and any invested or vested interest in a product when a speaker speaks. Over.
Well, thank you. Any other comments? In the foundation track, I hope to get a number of different points of view with regard to upper ontologies as well as other aspects of foundational issues. So I do think we're going to be able to deal with this issue, Robert.
Kenneth? One point I hope will be brought out, and John Beverly touched on it briefly in terms of the issue of education. One of the values of ontology development is the process of analysis that goes into the development. And that analysis process is applicable across any sort of domain where you have to make a decision about something. So hopefully the education gang will raise that use case.
Good point. Good point. I'll bring it up with him.
Oh, and we can also harp on natural language definitions. I think Gary raised that point also. If you don't know what you want to formalize, you're going to get what you put into it. Confusion.
I think natural language definitions are very important.
They're critical.
They're very critical. I mean, I look at some examples of even manuals these days, and instead of giving a definition of a term, they say, "Okay, here's how you would use it," or something like that. What is it? I mean, it's just an ordinary discourse. I'm surprised at how careless people are with definitions.
Yes. I think Janet would like to speak.
Janet?
Yes. Echoing what Rob said, I think these were wonderful presentations, and they actually did a lot of the work of synthesis and overview already. This is going to be exciting to take part in. I think I'm going to go over this again because I want to absorb the not only the content of the communiques, but the content of everybody's expert reviews of what has gone on already. On definitions, I would like to make the point that definitions of by demonstrating use are key, and arguably are the most important thing in human communication. So using a term in a manual, if you're speaking to humans, is arguably the most important thing. Dictionaries collect uses. Now, when we also here need to communicate with machines, and machines need more than demonstrations of use. Machines need different kinds of definitions, which is going to be my focus in retrospective, that distinguishing the needs of humans and the needs of machines has been an ongoing a stumbling block, because both need to be given equal weight in order for us to have interoperability. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Janet. Good point.
Thank you, John. John, can you speak now?
John,
You are muted.
yeah, John, you're not muted. You should be able to speak. John Sawa.
That the reason I am speaking loud is in case he has difficulty hearing. John, can you please speak now? Thank you,
He
John.
put in the chat that he needed to be unmuted.
He
but-
is unmuted.
Yeah, I know. So it's apparently his microphone.
I think he's got a technical difficulty with his microphone.
Phil Jackson wrote to him that he's unmuted. Still he is not.
Well,
John, increase your volume.
So this is Gary. While he's doing all of that technical difficulties, I want to say a few words about this natural language definitions issue. I have been spending some time on this, but I think there are many, many other researchers who have. Gen AIs have access to things along the semantic spectrum. And so when you have a definition, you can ask, well, what are the alternate definitions about this? Even things that are in well-established ontologies have definitions. You can say, oh, well, are there other definitions of this? And if there are, how would you propose harmonizing that? And if you are harmonizing it, how would you represent it in OWL and so forth? And you can make a lot of progress on that. Not that it's perfect, but it really helps the harmonization task quite a bit. Among the things I found that the errors it makes is it will sometimes make a common sense definition mistake. So when in looking at chemical reactions where you have a catalyst, it's sometimes identified heat as a catalyst because it advances the thing, but I asked it when it said that, I asked it, tell me, I think that's the mistake. And, it said, oh, yes, indeed. I've looked at a non-scientific definition of catalyst and how this is how I would modify the ontology to cover it. It'll build relationships. So this is something we may hear more about as part of our track that I've talked about. But for me, it advances the possibility of taking an area like soil, which has many, many different databases, but not a good ontology, and being able to sort of really come up with a start on that, at least for knowledge engineers to then look at.
Gary, if I may, regarding natural language definitions, I'm sure you've looked at your share of them, and they are in general ambiguous, and in particular, at least in English language, they can cover many different possible interpretations. Just the word bank, for instance, right? So when you talk about harmonizing definitions, what is the goal of the harmonization? So you are going to have to restrict the possible interpretations that you want that definition applicable to. So you are injecting bias. And the only thing I want to say is that you should be conscious of the bias you're injecting. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Because you want the definition to be used in a formal system, machines, for instance, or human to machine interactions. And you want to be able to constrain the interpretations of what that human who reads it or the machine who's going to use it will do with it.
Well, Todd, in my experience, we're way beyond that. So essentially, you take an agent-oriented approach, and in the prompt engineering part of that, you essentially specify things. So it's not going to misidentify the idea of bank. It's going to definitely know that we're not talking about a financial institution.
Why? Because you have explicitly made the context known?
Yes, you actually point to things and saying, this is the type of definition I'm interested in. So
Okay, so
your
you're
prompt
constraining the
engineering
interpretation
quickly
in a
grounds
fashion.
it. And of course, as an agent-oriented approach, you can have multiple agents looking at this and then sort of talking to each other to resolve any inconsistencies. So we've moved on from a very simple approach where you can misunderstand queries. That doesn't mean that you're not going to get mistakes that I mentioned in terms of natural definitions versus scientific definitions. But we can certainly, with prompt engineering, do a pretty good job. And maybe the order of
Well,
errors is the same as being misunderstood by a domain expert when you're talking to them as a knowledge engineer. There are these inconsistencies or
so perhaps
misunderstandings.
this
Todd,
well, then you're suggesting that yes, sir.
Todd, can you repeat that?
Okay, so Gary, what you're saying is the place where this constraints are imposed is someplace other than what I was suggesting. That it's higher up, if you like, in the food chain,
Yes, the
i.e., the
early
prompts.
conversations you have can specify that. And you can tell it, you can tell the Gen A act as a domain expert, for example. You can give it roles essentially. So it's not talking like a regular citizen, it's actually talking like it's looking at scholarly information and things of that nature. So you can minimize or you can at least constrain some of the problems. It's a conversation.
Okay.
Hey,
We're actually running over. It's supposed to be a 1 hour session. Um,
I just wanted to draw attention. If any of our listeners want to make a comment, please do.
yeah, people have been putting comments in the chat, and they'll be captured. So with that, I think we should adjourn this session and invite everyone to come next week, where we should have a really exciting retrospective. Uh, and hopefully, people will be giving their experiences, and we'll have a very lively, sometimes even contentious session coming up next week. So looking forward to seeing all of you in 1 week.
Thanks,
Bye now.
everybody, including Ken.
Yes. Bye all.